Hey there, Regina Anley here, and it is time for Coffee with Regina. And today I have a very special guest. It is Marc Mawhinney. Did I pronounce that right?
You got it. Nailed it.
Oh, awesome. And first off, welcome, Marc.
I don't drink coffee. Full disclosure, I'm the rare Canadian that hates coffee. So it'll be water with Marc.
I was going to
coffee
tea,
with Regina.
water,
There we
vodka.
go.
We don't judge around here. So let me tell you all about Marc before we get into our little chat here, because this is going to be a really interesting chat. Marc is a lifelong entrepreneur, and he's been helping coaches get more clients without paid ads since 2014. So how cool is that? He is the host of the Natural Born Coaches podcast, which has almost 900 episodes to date. And what I love best about Marc is he is the Tarzan of the coaching jungle, which is, if you're not in that group on Facebook, you need to be on that group on Facebook, because the coaching jungle is an amazing group with over 25,000 coaches that he has in the community. And there's a lot of us who are very, very active. So it's a great place to hang out. He's been a speaker at Social Media Marketing World, and he makes frequent media appearances like right here. And he's also been a contributor on entrepreneur.com. So I am so excited to have you here today with me.
Thank you for the invite. Appreciate it.
Now, I know you do tons of stuff. And in this little chat, we have about a half an hour, a little bit more. And so the conversation I could have with you, I know could last for hours. And I know one of the things that you help folks with, especially those coaches and consultants who are getting started, is how to get started on a shoestring budget. You actually have a special process for that. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah. So without boring you with my whole life story, I guess the relevant part for it is I had to start my coaching business. I say not on a shoestring budget. It was a dental floss budget back. Actually, I just celebrated 11 years, so it was March of 2014 when I got started. And the reason it was a very tight budget, I was coming from, my past life was in real estate, where I built up a big real estate company here. And then everything after a decade or so of, it was a lot of work, but it was no potholes in the road. It was kind of hockey stick growth, and then everything collapsed. So when I started my coaching business a few years after that, I just didn't have a war chest to pour into the things. But part of the reason my real estate business got going is I would invest my commissions revenue back into marketing, like radio ads, postcards. This was the Stone Age back then. But with coaching, I didn't have that benefit. And at first I thought it was a negative, kind of felt like I was fighting with one arm tied behind my back. And I looked at other people who had thousands or tens of thousands of dollars to pour into ads and hiring copywriters and funnel people and all this help. Looking back now with the benefit of hindsight, I could see it was a positive starting without a big budget, on a shoestring budget, because it forced me to roll up my sleeves and do a lot of stuff myself, really hone my messaging, get disciplined for getting consistent content creation out there. And to this day, I help a lot of coaches, and I always tell them you don't need big ad budgets. Now, of course, if you want to pour fuel on the fire to get going and throw money into that stuff, you can. But I proved it with my business and a lot of coaches that I've helped that you don't need a ton of money. And a lot of times it can be bad in a way, because I've seen a lot of new coaches come in that have that money and they think, oh, I'll shortcut it and I'll spend money hiring all these different people. Pretty soon they spent $50,000 and they don't have a client or any sales to show for it. And that's always a shame as well.
You know that's a big thing, because a lot of coaches and consultants, they start out in the business and they have this great idea because there's something that they do really well, and they don't actually think about all that other business stuff that goes along with, putting the shackle up, putting your shackle out in the door and saying, hey, I'm a coach, come on in. Here's what I do. They don't think about all that other stuff that goes along with it. You have to actually go out and find the clients. You need to identify who they are, where they are, and then somehow you have to reach them. And right now, I think you'll agree with me that it's the coaching and consultant world is not just saturated, it's oversaturated at this point.
Very noisy. I thought it was saturated in 2014 when I started. That was like the Wild West old days or whatever. Now we're in a very hyperactive city. It's just so noisy. People, I've noticed a shift in the last couple of years where it's gotten more difficult in a lot of ways. And I don't want to say impossible. There's still people who are buying, obviously, and investing. But versus, say, 2020 when COVID first hit and people were sitting at home and they're getting, quote, free money from the government. There's never free money from the government, but they were getting, sent checks, and they're like, maybe I'll want to hop online and hire coaches and do all this stuff. And it's a little different in 2025.
Yeah. So, and with everything that happened with COVID coming in and everything else, I think in 2025, I think we're finally starting to see that people are finally getting out from under the weeds from all the stuff that happened in 2020, because there was a lot of layoffs, and then a whole bunch of new coaches and consultants came on board. Everybody decided, well, I can't find a job. I'm going to start a business and I want to work from home. And all these things started happening. So the dynamics really changed. And now we're starting to, I think we're getting to that point where we're starting to weed out. So the people who really weren't business owners, and they didn't really have that entrepreneurial spirit, but they went there just because they had nothing else to do. They're now going back into workforce places. And then the other coaches and consultants that are out there at a point where they're starting to build back up again. Do you have any thoughts on that?
And I don't want to shame anyone who is going to work in an office, because I feel like sometimes in the entrepreneurial, especially online space, we're in this bubble where there's a lot of snooty people that think, oh, if you're working in an office, you've given up on yourself and you're a wage slave and you're a piece of crap or something. It's not like that. I'm all about wherever you're happiest. And some people aren't designed to be entrepreneurs. They're not happy that way. Me, I would be miserable working in an office. I'm just not designed that way. But at the end of the day, if you're happy working at corporate America or whatever, hey, great. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think you're right. What's happened is, back in the old days, I've known a lot of coaches that back then would be great at selling once. They were good marketing for that first sale, but there was not much behind the curtain that was really helping people. They were selling the sizzle, not the steak, so to speak. And I think you need both. And so they're great at getting that initial sale, but not repeat business, referrals, and testimonials, all that stuff. And they're gone now. Sometimes I'll just remember a name of someone I used to see a lot a couple of years back. And they're not here anymore. I'm like, oh, gee, I don't know what they're doing. So often now it's Bitcoin or something like that. I will say one. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish up.
I will say one thing on the whole shoestring budget, which I think is very important, is regardless of how much money you have to invest in your business, you have to identify and answer 3 questions. And this isn't just for coaches, it's really for anyone in business, regardless of the industry. Who do you help? How do you help them? And where do you find them? And that sounds like common sense. You might be thinking, oh, gee, Mark, of course, that's natural. But I find that a lot of entrepreneurs may be able to answer 1 or 2 of those questions, but not nail all 3 of them. And if you can't nail all 3, it's going to be difficult. The third one, where do you find them, is especially important for the whole shoestring budget conversation, because there's 177 different things you could be doing online, and you only have 24 hours in the day. And if you split up your attention and your energy into all of those things, you're not going to get traction in enough of them. So I'm really big on what I call the 3 pillars, where you choose 3 main things that you focus on. My 3 pillars, it's podcasting. So it's my show, Natural Born Coaches, but also going out on shows like this. It's community building. So the Coaching Jungle group, we're up over 27,000 coaches now. That's an important part of what I do. And then the third one is email marketing, but specifically daily emails. I've been emailing my list daily for years. Your 3 pillars might not be the same, or maybe there's 2 of them, and then you swap out one for something you enjoy. And it doesn't mean I'm not doing other things. I'm posting on LinkedIn every day, and I do a little bit with YouTube and stuff. But those 3 pillars are what I focus on for 90% of my energy. And that's where I'm getting a lot of my business. And I do think that's very important to identify which 3 pillars you're going to focus on.
Yeah, and I'm hearing that as the traffic sources. Where are you getting people from? So it's that those 3 pillars are critically important to identify. And then like you said, you have to have the steak and not just the sizzle. So say you go onto podcasts, you have the email marketing, you have the group, you have to have something to actually put out there too.
Yeah. Well, the challenge is a lot of newer coaches I'm talking with say, well, I don't have the money to invest in ads or I don't want to be getting into that now. I say, okay, that's great. But then they say, but I don't want to be creating as much content as you're doing. I don't want to be in front of the laptop as much. And there's two roads there. You got to choose one of those paths, or there could be a third path, of course, a hybrid where you're doing organic plus paid ads. But you don't have the luxury to say, well, I don't want to do paid ads, but I'm going to sit on my hands and not do any organic marketing as well, because it just doesn't work that way. You have to do one or the other, or like I said, a mix of it. And there's things you can do with creating content. People think that I'm on my laptop more than I am because of the amount of content I'm putting out there. I've just worked out a good system after so many years to save time. So the daily emails I mentioned, my daily email goes into almost 10 different places. It's shot out all over the place. So that email takes roughly 15 minutes to write, where I've gotten good at writing them over the years. And then it's out into the world in case someone's not on my email list. They're going to see that info elsewhere. It's not like I'm spending 10 hours a day creating content.
Yeah. So you're creating something maybe in an email and then repurposing the same information to be maybe a Facebook post or whatever. And then maybe you're having the same conversation. You're having a conversation on a podcast. So repurposing is a great way to save time. I have talked to a lot of coaches and consultants who have the same issue, and they say, well, creating content is really hard. And I said, it's not really hard if you have a system in place, just like you said, and repurposing is your friend.
Well, you can, full disclosure, I cheat sometimes. So I go back into an email that I sent, say, in 2015 or 2019, and I may have to tweak a few things, but for the most part, my content is evergreen. It's not like there's been these huge changes. Well, you're an AI person, so obviously there's certain things like AI that have come on the horizon, but really the principles have remained the same. So I can go back, pull that email from 2017, and I send it out again. I've never had anyone say, hey, Mark, you sent this email out July 14th of 2017. You the son of a, but so don't worry about that. But the advantage to starting today with your content creation is the future you in the year 2030 is going to thank you, because you're making it easier for them years down the road. It's just, it's like that old saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. If you had told me back in 2014 when I launched Natural Born Coaches that today I'd be at, I think we're at episode 913 this week, that I'd have 913 out, I'd be freaked out. Oh my God, almost 1,000 podcast episodes. That's 500 hours of recordings, blah, blah, blah. You just get started and then it compounds.
Yeah. And with Coffee with Regina, I may actually be at, or I'm very, very close to the 100 mark.
Nice. That's good.
Yeah.
So you're probably in the 1% of shows. There's very few shows that make it past there. How many are in the whole pod fading type thing, or podgatory? They're in. They're not quite dead. They're not quite alive. They're in that middle room.
Yeah. Now going back to the repurposing content, and you mentioned, because yes, I do. I use and teach a lot of AI. I do regular hands-on stuff as well. However, I use AI as a tool to help, and AI comes in really, really handy for repurposing, because a lot of people will talk about, well, I have that email that I wrote, a while ago, and I'm not quite sure what I want to say now, or I just want to save some time. So you can take that email, put it into AI, and ask it to rewrite it for you and give it the information that you want and have it rewritten faster. Of course, if you're a master at writing the content and you're doing it in 15 minutes anyways, then just go do it. But that's what AI can help you do. It can help you save time, especially if you're looking for ideas and trying to figure out what to do.
Well, what I'll do for mine, this is behind the curtain, but I should probably do more with AI, like you mentioned. But one of the tricks that I use, my daily email goes onto my website as a blog post every day. There's reasons for SEO and other stuff. If I'm writing on a topic and I'm thinking I have to come up with an email about, well, good example, I'm in the middle of a joint venture now, and my partner's doing a challenge around niching. So when I was writing all the emails for that campaign, I thought, okay, I want to get a good email for niching. And I know I've written about it a ton of times over the last 10 years or more to my email list. So I went over to my blog, and there's a search function for keywords, and I punched in niching, and all these blog posts or emails or both came up. And I was able to pull, and I tweaked a little bit with it, but that was a good chunk of my campaign written that way because I'd already created. There's no sense reinventing the wheel if you've already created good content around that stuff. I remember I was speaking at an event once, and Guy Kawasaki was speaking at the same event. The guy from Steve Jobs' friend back in the day, or business, worked with him, Canva, everything else. And he said during his speech that he did an experiment with his Facebook fan page where he decided to put the exact same post word for word on the page within a couple hours apart, morning and then afternoon. And he wanted to see how many people would complain. He had about 500,000 fans at the time. Do you know how many out of 500,000 complained that he put the exact same post up?
I'm going to have to guess 0.
2, so you're close. But his point was he got 2 complaints out of 500,000 fans. So if you have a couple thousand people in your world, for example, are you going to get many complaints? You probably won't get any. It's not the end of the world, even if you do, because I do think repetition is important to reinforce things. If there's something really important that you want your people to know, there's no harm in then seeing it again, because everybody's so distracted and their attention's all over the place. I want to hammer home those really important principles to them. So just something to keep in mind if you're repackaging and you're kind of nervous about doing it.
Yeah, I've been to so many different courses and webinars and stuff over the years, and there's some that I've done repeatedly. And people asked me, well, why did you go to that repeatedly? Why did you do it over and over and over again? Isn't it the same content? And I said, yeah, it is the same content, but every single time I come out with something different. And, it's the same thing as repurposing content. It's, you can put the content out there and it's the same information. Maybe you're talking about niche. People are like, oh my gosh, it's another message about niching down and finding your target audience. And yet, if you actually read what they put into the post, and most of the time for the good content that's out there, there's something in it that will tickle your brain, and you'll be like, oh yeah, but I didn't think about that. Maybe I need to go back and add that to my target audience. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it just hits different. You never know. The same with books. There's always that debate: is it better to read a really good book 100 times or 100 books? And I'm kind of in the middle. I wouldn't want to read just one book and that's it. I like reading different ones and different points of view. But I do like going back to the good ones. You've got the Think and Grow Rich's, Thick Face, Black Heart. That's a book that I've read many times. So there's certain books I'll read once a year because there's so many nuggets in there. And I'm the type that marks up my books. I highlight them and I scribble in the index. And some people would probably think, oh my gosh, you're destroying them. But I like to do that. There's another tip for content creation. If you're the same as me and you do that to your books, if you're ever stuck, that's what I do. I look at my bookshelf and I just pull one down and I have all these highlighted passages and notes scribbled down. And then I can just pull something from there and riff off it.
That's a great idea. I didn't think about that. And I do that all the time. I highlight stuff. I put notes in them. I do everything. I never actually thought about taking one off the shelf going, hey, this is what I'm going to write about today. That's a great idea. Yeah. That's a great tip. Yeah. So when you think about, I actually have moving off into the coaching jungle for a minute. I just an oddball question that came to me this morning before we started. And I was like, is there a specific topic in the coaching jungle that is more prevalent than others? When you see the post that everybody
that's talked a lot. Well, I can tell you one of the ones that always gets good engagement and is controversial. And whenever I see it, I think, oh God, I'm getting my bulletproof vest on. And that's regarding certification. If somebody says something pro or against certification, you get each side lining up and then bang. I think that a lot of the discussion would be based around, we talked about niching here and raising your fees, getting your early clients. I always say it's that first client's probably the hardest one to get. Once you've gotten the client, they've paid, there's that proof of concept that, hey, it's worth this and people want it, and go from there. Getting booked on podcasts, that's something that's discussed in there quite a bit. There's a broad range. I mean, what I'd suggest if anyone is in the group, it's thecoachingjungle.com. If there's something you're interested in, go to the search bar that's in the group, punch in that keyword, and then I'm sure, unless it's something really out there, you're going to see some posts about it, because the group's been open now for almost 10 years and there's a lot going on.
I am just posting it right now into our comments here. So it is right out here at the Coaching Jungle. And you said there's over 27,000 folks out in the community now?
Yeah, 27,300. We have a VIP perk, which you're a VIP member. So thank you very much. If someone wants to become a VIP, I should set you up as an affiliate with it and then use Regina's link. But yeah, the VIP perk, I mean, that could be a whole other discussion, but it's been a good way to monetize the group and then give those VIPs a lot of benefits for not much money there. So I won't get into all of that, but that's been a really good addition to the group. We launched it last summer.
Yeah, and I just bounced over to the chat to put that out there. I saw Shawn Michaels out here watching us, and he said, "You brought the amazing Marc Mawhinney on. Awesome."
Well, I was going to say I'm a wrestling fan, so Shawn Michaels, a Heartbreak Kid, but it's the Shawn that I know, the coaching. Yes, Shawn. So, hey, Shawn.
Yeah. So when you think about some of the stuff that people need most, in the Coaching Jungle, you've got everything. You've got the people who are just starting out, and then you have well-established coaches. Some of them have been coaching for over 40 years. So when you think about that mix that you have in the Coaching Jungle, do you think it's more of the newer coaches, we'll call them seasoned coaches, or more of it's probably fewer of the real veterans?
I was surprised. I did a poll maybe 2 years ago, and I should redo it. And I thought it would be heavily weighted towards the newer coaches' first few years. I was surprised at how many have been in it over a decade. So, for example, Terry Levine, mutual friend of ours, I think she's been out 30 years or something crazy. People like that. So I was surprised that how many were in there. So I don't know what the average time would be, but the plurality would probably be in 3 to 5 years, I would think, most of there, but there are quite a few that have been in longer. And it's a really good mix of niches. There's also people who wouldn't identify as coaches in there. We've got some agency owners, VA companies, they own something that services coaches. Thank you, Shawn. Yeah, come on into the VIP if you want. The water's warm.
Yeah, I put Shawn's message up because I talk a little bit about what you do with the VIP, because the VIP, we usually don't talk about like paid promotions on here. Go visit the Coaching Jungle. It's a free group. There's a ton of, as you just heard, of great people in there. But you also have this VIP member thing set up.
Yeah, I mean, I'll mention it because people who own communities, maybe larger communities, could adopt this for theirs, something like it. Basically, I opened the Coaching Jungle in the fall of 2015. And until last summer, we were extremely tight on deleting any promotional stuff on the wall, calls to action, links. They had to stay in the threads. Like, for example, Promotion Friday thread. We've got Share Your Content Thursday. They couldn't go in the wall. They had to go in there. And overall, the group's been pretty good for the size, having almost 30,000 people. There's not as much spam as you would think, or people trying to break the rules. There is, obviously, with that size, but it's not 100 a day or anything like that. Late May, early June, I launched the Coaching Jungle VIP, and that I say stands for Very Important Post, or VIP. But what it is an opportunity for those VIPs to put a promotional post, offer, call to action directly on the group wall every week, day and time of their choosing. They get other advantages like direct messaging members, which if we usually get wind of somebody messaging the members and using the group as a directory, we'll warn them or we'll boot them, just so the members aren't getting thousands and thousands of messages from the group, but they're allowed to do that. They have an expert badge, a spiffy blue, which you have, Regina, expert badge in the group, which is only for VIPs. But one of the really big things, and I've been pleasantly surprised at how big of an addition this has been for the VIP, is we have networking meetings. Right now we're doing 2 a month. We've got one tomorrow. We do the first and third Thursday of the month. And I'm thinking of adding more because they've been going really well. And those networking meetings are an opportunity to mingle with the other VIPs in breakout rooms. And we've got right now almost 80 VIPs, all A1 people like yourself. And what's been cool, I'll float around the breakout rooms to hear what you guys are talking about. We've had VIPs hiring each other, referring business, getting booked on each other's shows. Some joint venture partnerships have been added as well. So that community part with those VIPs has been probably as important or more than the posting part of it, surprisingly. And I think it's just because people are yearning for connection. It's a networking meeting, but in some ways it's also kind of got some mastermind components there as well, with people giving advice and throwing some ideas around. It's $97 a month, $970 a year. You get a break if you go for the year, but $97 a month, couple dollars a day for all that, I think is a pretty good deal.
And I'm a VIP, as you know, and I love those meetings. And as you were saying that, I was smiling because I went, you know what, Mark, you just added a fourth pillar, because now you're also a master networker. You're a networker connection. So add that. You got podcasting. You've got the jungle. You've got the emails, and now you're a networking master.
You know, it's funny, when I launched the VIP, I have to give credit to my brother because he ribs me about this. He gave me the idea. So every time I'll joke around and say, oh yeah, I was mentioning about the VIP on a podcast. Oh, did you tell them that was my idea? So Matt, if you're stumbling on this, there you go. You're awesome. Thank you for the idea. But one of the surprising things with the VIP, when I first launched, I thought, oh, geez, are there going to be a lot of people coming in that I don't really like the kind of spammy douchepreneurs I'm not a fan of, So I was like, are there going to be a bunch of douchepreneurs?
I love that term.
Yeah. And I can honestly say that they're great people in there, and we haven't had that issue where there's someone where I'm thinking, oh, God, they're now a VIP. I got to deal with them here. I think the advantage having it at $97 a month is it's high enough to keep those types out. They're not probably going to pay $97 a month unless they're serious about really getting in there and doing the networking and giving back to the VIPs too, because everyone's helping each other. But also it's high enough to keep them out, but it's low enough to make sense for people to come in. It's not $500 a month or $1,000 a month. It's $97. So that, I think that's important. If I put it out there at $10 a month, I know there'd be a lot more people, but there'd probably be a lot that I wouldn't want to deal with either. So you have to use that judgment. It's a balancing act.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, that goes for anything, right? I mean, we have a little bit of time left, and you just brought up a good topic that I want to go off onto, which is, even with clients, you want to make sure that you're bringing in the right clients. And so I have some people that I work with, and they say, well, I'm going to price this at $27. I'm going to price this at whatever. And I'm going to make it really super cheap. And I remind them, if you make something really super cheap, you're going to get the really super cheap people.
So the story that reiterates that, I remember Ben Settle started something back, I want to say 2016. I've learned a lot from Ben. He got me into daily emails. He's got lots of great stuff. And he started a community subscription type thing called El Bembo's Apprentice. And so he had a lot of copywriters and things coming in. And I think he launched it at $7. Then it was going up to $17 a month, or maybe it was $17 a month. Then it was going to $27. Either way, it was a steal for the amount of stuff that was in this community. So I joined up right away. I'm like, no brainer. And I think he got upwards of 1,000 people in there, which isn't bad. That's a good chunk of change. If I don't have my calculator, if you use your calculator. He shut it down within a week. And I give him credit for it, because a lot of people feel like, oh, I got almost 1,000 people in there, I have to keep it going. Some of the horror stories, because he was sharing, for example, there was a secret podcast that only people that were in El Bembo's Apprentice could get. And he was very clear that, hey, this is going to be a week or whatever for these to be available, but you got all the other stuff in the meantime. He started getting complaints from people like, hey, I'm paying you $7 a month. Where the hell's the podcast episode? Or he's getting all these, there was a clear method of putting in support, like tickets with help, but they're messaging him directly. So he's getting all these messages from people. And it's almost like they felt like they owned him because they're paying $7 a month. And I give him credit because within a week he shut it down and said, you know what? I don't want to do this. I want to have fun in my business. This isn't fun. Sorry, guys, I'm shutting it down. And that's a word of warning if you are looking at offering something that's $7, $17, $25. My lowest offer is the $97 a month VIP, and they're A1 type people. It's not flaky folks there or whatever. But if you're going especially to colder traffic with $7 a month, that could be really ugly with it. Because I'm not saying they're not good people, but generally speaking, you're probably going to have more trouble with the $10 a month person than you would from the one who's paying you more. It's just the law of business, I guess.
Yeah, and you're right, because yours is the $97 VIP, and if I remember right, even when I went to go sign up, we had a conversation. So you were making sure is Regina a good fit for the VIP group? You wanted to make sure that the people were the right people. I do that with my clients. I don't bring people on to be the regular ongoing client family members unless I have a conversation with them and make sure they're a right fit for the group.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do it across the board. I wouldn't recommend for $97 a month doing sales calls because you're going to be overrun. At that price point, it's a little different than a 5K program when, of course, you're probably going to be doing sales calls. For me, I like doing it because a lot of the people coming to the VIP I know, but maybe I haven't Zoomed with them or haven't connected with them in years. And I do want to hear more about their business. There could be other opportunities. I have joint venture campaign potentials, or I want to hear what they're up to, getting on each other's podcasts. So that's a little different. If I was putting out a $97 a month offer that was more to a colder type audience and traffic, I wouldn't be doing sales calls with it. But in this case, it's a little different for the reasons I mentioned.
Yeah. And we are out of time now. So, because I went off to that extra tangent there. There's so much stuff that we could talk about going, we could go down so many rat holes here. But I just want to make sure everybody knew that if you go to naturalborncoaches.com, I believe they can find out all of the information there. Is that right?
That's kind of the central hub. The quicker way for the Jungle VIP would be myjunglevip.com. Or if they want to just check out the Coaching Jungle, it's thecoachingjungle.com or the link you put up earlier.
Yeah. If you go to Facebook and just type in the Coaching Jungle in the search, you will come right up.
What I'd like to do, do you have an affiliate link? Have I set you up? A number of VIPs have affiliate links.
I don't believe I do.
Oh, okay. So I'll set that up for you and shoot it over just so you have it. If anyone's watching this wants to join, please use the affiliate link for Regina. She'll not be able to buy a cottage or a sports car or whatever. It's 25% every month that you stay in, but she will get a thank you for connecting us.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being with me here today, because there's been so many golden nuggets in this conversation. It's amazing.
Well, you're returning the favor. I'm interviewing you tomorrow for a program of mine. So there we go. We'll be even right. Steven tomorrow.
There you go. So I just want to tell everybody, if you aren't in the Coaching Jungle, trust me, 27,000 other coaches and consultants. If you have any question about anything that you're doing in your coaching business, there is somebody in that group that can answer your question. So if you have any challenges, any pain points, anything going on, you join the Coaching Jungle. There is somebody in there that can help you. And I'm sure you can add value in there as well with what you know. So go out and join the Coaching Jungle. Thank you, Mark, so much for being with me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Thanks,
all
everyone.
Right, and we will see you all next time on Coffee with Regina. Bye for now. And water with Mark.